If you've been scrolling through endless welders, reading specs, watching top 10 videos, and still feel like you're stuck in a loop of maybe this one, you're not alone. I've been there, staring at the battery-powered options and wondering if the convenience is worth the trade-off in performance. The Lincoln Electric Elevate SLE is the kind of tool that promises to end that indecision, especially if you need to move between job sites without hunting for a generator. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first heard about the Elevate SLE, what caught my ear was the claim of maximum portability combined with Lincoln's reputation for durability. In the field, that promise translates into a very specific scenario: a small shop owner who does a lot of on-site repairs, a contractor who needs to weld in tight spaces where a corded machine would be a trip hazard, or even a hobbyist who wants to pop a welder into the trunk of a pickup and be ready in minutes. If any of those sound familiar, keep listening, otherwise you might want to skip ahead. Let's break down what the Elevate SLE actually brings to the table when you pull it out of the bag. First, the internal rechargeable battery. It's not a tiny 12-volt pack that only lasts a handful of short beads. Lincoln designed it to hold enough charge for a full day of light to moderate welding on 1/8" ch mild steel. In my test, after a full charge, I could run roughly 30 minutes of continuous arcade before the battery indicator nudged me to recharge. That's enough to finish a typical pipe fitting job or a series of repair welds without having to stop and swap out a battery module. The all-in-one charging system means you plug the unit into any standard 120V outlet and the charger refills the battery and powers the welder simultaneously, so you never need a separate charger on the job site. The adjustable hot start and arc force controls are where the Elevate SLE starts to feel a bit more like a professional's tool rather than a hobbyist's toy. Hot start gives you that extra surge of current at the very beginning of each arc, which helps the electrode ignite cleanly on dirty or rusty metal. I found it especially useful when I was welding an old steel frame that hadn't been cleaned in years. Instead of repeatedly tapping the electrode to get a stable arc, a single press of the foot pedal with hot start engaged got me a consistent start every time. Arc force, on the other hand, lets you dial in how aggressively the machine maintains the bead. For thin sheet work, dialing it down prevents burn-through. For thicker plate, cranking it up gives deeper penetration. That flexibility is a real advantage over many entry-level battery welders that lock you into a single setting. Now, let's talk about the hidden trade-offs. Because the unit is battery-powered, you lose the sheer amperage headroom you'd get from a heavy-duty transformer rectifier. If you regularly weld inch or thicker material, you'll notice the machine starts to struggle to maintain a stable arc, especially when you push the settings to the max. The weld puddle can become a little wobbly at higher thicknesses, which means you might need to go slower or take multiple passes. That's not a deal-breaker for most light to moderate tasks, but it's a point to consider if your day-to-day involves structural steel fabrication. Another practical weakness is the weight distribution. The battery sits low in the base, which keeps the center of gravity stable when you're standing over a workpiece, but it also means the handle can feel a bit front-heavy when you're carrying it around the shop. It's not a backbreaker, but you'll notice the difference compared to a corded unit that you can simply sling over a shoulder. For anyone who has to trek long distances between job sites, that extra few pounds can add up. Who should buy this welder? If you're a mobile contractor who needs to move between rooftops, trailers, or remote locations where power isn't guaranteed, the Elevate SLE checks the portability box without sacrificing too much on performance. It also shines for small shop owners who want to free up floor space. The battery eliminates the need for a bulky power cord and the accompanying clutter. Hobbyists who enjoy building things in the garage and don't want to invest in a full-size inverter will find the price point reasonable for the flexibility they get. The durability claim holds up in real life. Lincoln's casing feels solid enough to survive the occasional drop or bump that inevitably happens on a busy work site. Who should skip it? If your primary workload is heavy structural welding, think large-scale steel frames, shipbuilding, or industrial fabrication, you'll likely hit the amperage ceiling faster than you'd like. In those scenarios, a traditional stick welder or a larger inverter with a higher duty cycle will serve you better. Also, if you're looking for a machine that can run non-stop for several hours on a single charge, you might be better off with a generator-powered unit that isn't constrained by battery capacity. Overall, the value.